88 years. That's how long this record stood. Then one man smashed it. Every country, every sport, they all voted him the best athlete on earth. He's only 23. That's his right hand you're looking at, the hand he plays with. He hasn't held a racket in a real match for 5 weeks. He won't hold one for months. French Open, gone. Wimbledon, gone. Queen's Club, gone. And the points he lost, the titles he lost, it all hits like a final verdict. We'll get to that. But first, how does the man who just made history simply disappear from his own sport? Here's the strange part. Carlos Alcaraz plays a style of tennis nobody should be able to handle. The speed, the spin, the sheer force he puts on himself. It creates magic nobody else can produce. But for 3 years straight, that same style has broken him down in the exact same month. This is not bad luck, this is a pattern. And patterns have reasons behind them. So let's dig in. What is this injury really? Why is this one different? The kind players never fully bounce back from. 3 years of clay court breakdowns that nobody has linked together until now. And the human side of it too, because his coach left at the end of 2025. And I think that matters way more than people admit. There's a number waiting for you at the end of the story. Once you hear what this injury actually cost him, everything changes. And there's a photo too. It leaked on Spanish social media. Just a man having dinner. But look at his wrist. Once you see it, every press statement falls apart. We'll get there. This year started like nothing tennis had seen in decades. You need to feel how high he flew, because the fall only hits hard if you understand what he had. Carlos Alcaraz entered the 2026 Australian Open as the world's #1 player. He'd already won the French Open and US Open in 2025. He ended that year on top. He had just split from Juan Carlos Ferrero, the coach who built him into a 6-time Grand Slam winner. A new team, a new season, everyone expected this to be his defining year. One trophy was still missing. 5 tries at the Australian Open, and his best result was just a quarterfinal. That was the hole in his resume. 2 French Opens, 2 Wimbledons, 2 US Opens, but never Melbourne. This January, in the semifinal, he battled Alexander Zverev for 5 hours and 27 minutes, the longest semifinal in Australian Open history. He was cramping by the 3rd set. He could barely walk. He lost 2 sets in tiebreaks. Every reason in the world to quit was right there. He didn't quit. In the final, he faced Novak Djokovic, 10-time champion here, 38 years old, chasing his 25th Grand Slam, which would have been the greatest achievement tennis has ever seen. Alcaraz won it, 6-2, 6-3, 7-5. And just like that, he completed the career Grand Slam, 22 years and 272 days old. He broke a record that stood since 1938, since Don Budge. Djokovic lost an Australian Open final for the very first time in 11 tries. Afterward, he found Alcaraz on stage and said this.
What you've been doing, it's, I think the best word to describe it is historic, legendary. So congratulations, and I wish you best of luck.
He went to Doha, won it, semifinals in Indian Wells, 3rd round in Miami. Those losses barely mattered. He was 22 wins, 3 losses heading into April. Healthy, rolling, playing the best tennis of his career. The best player alive in the middle of the best season of his life. Then 1st round in Barcelona against a player ranked outside the top 50 on a surface he owned. The season didn't slow down. It stopped completely. Mid-April, Barcelona Open, 1st round against Otto Virtanen. Midway through the match, the physio walks out for his right wrist. You can see it on his face. Pain or discomfort, hard to tell. He wins the match anyway. He says he felt something but figured it would settle down. He'd played through pain before. He thought he'd be fine. He was not fine. The next morning, he walks into the press room, cap down low, asks for water before he even talks.
But given today's tests, it's an injury that's more serious than we all expected. And honestly, as I've already said, in the end, I have to listen to my body, hear what suits me best and that won't affect me later in the future.
He pulled out of Barcelona, his tournament. He won it back in 2022 and 2023, and now he had to walk away from it. Then a photo hit Spanish social media. Alcaraz, out at a restaurant near his home in Murcia. Just a normal dinner, but on his right wrist, a full rigid splint. Not tape, not a wrap, the kind of brace doctors give you when they mean business. He couldn't even lift a glass without strain. That photo told the whole story before any official statement did. Madrid, withdrawn, second year in a row, and we'll get to what that really means in a minute. Then came the Laureus World Sports Awards in Madrid, Sportsman of the Year. He steps on stage in a tux, trophy held high, and there's that same rigid splint, right on camera, on full display. The greatest athlete on the planet holding his award in one hand, while the other hand is the reason he can't play. That's not just bad timing, that's the whole diagnosis in one image. If this is your first time here, hit subscribe, because this story is far from over, and you'll want to be first to know what happens next. Okay, so at that gala, reporters asked about Roland-Garros. He said, "We'll see, the next test will tell us everything." The test came back bad. Rome, withdrawn. Roland-Garros, withdrawn. 2 titles he had won 2 years running, both gone. "Pushing myself at Roland-Garros," he said, "could damage me for tournaments still to come." His whole clay season wiped out. Now here's where this gets serious, because wrist injuries sound simple, but there's one word that makes everyone in tennis go quiet: tenosynovitis. That's swelling in the tendon sheath, the sleeve that lets your wrist tendons glide smoothly. When it swells up, that tendon rubs and drags against inflamed walls with every single swing. Push a swollen wrist to match speed, and it doesn't just hurt, it can tear. And a torn tendon doesn't just end a season, it can end a whole career. The plan right now is careful, full rest, no movement, anti-inflammatory meds, hands-on physio with Juanjo Moreno, his longtime physio. No surgery yet, no set return date. It's all week by week, because tenosynovitis doesn't come with a calendar. There's one name every player thinks of when they hear right wrist: Juan Martín del Potro. Won the US Open in 2009 at just 20 years old, beat Nadal in straight sets in the semis, beat Federer in 5 sets in the final. Everyone thought he was the sport's next big star, but his wrists had other ideas. Surgery after surgery, years lost to injury, a career made of flashes, brilliant moments cut short by rehab that never fully held. 1 Grand Slam title, that's all his wrists let him keep. Nobody's saying that's Alcaraz's fate. He's 23, he's choosing the careful path. His team is being extremely careful. But Del Potro's story is why nobody in tennis brushes off a wrist injury the way they shrug off a sore knee. That's why Alcaraz's camp refuses to rush this. Wrists don't forgive impatience. 4 straight defended titles on the line: Barcelona, Madrid, Roland-Garros, and now Wimbledon. All his, and he defended none of them. Now here's the deeper layer. A wrist injury by itself is one story, but this is the 3rd spring in a row where his body has broken down at the exact same point in the calendar. Line those up and it's a completely different story. 2024, forearm injury, out of Monte Carlo, out of Barcelona. He comes back from Madrid, loses in the quarters at maybe 70%. Out of Rome, then he goes to Paris with almost no clay prep and still wins the French Open for the very first time. 2025, wins Monte Carlo, reaches the Barcelona final but picks up an adductor injury. Out of Madrid, 2nd year running. Still wins Rome, then wins Paris, coming back from 2 sets down, saving 3 match points against Sinner in a 5-hour, 29-minute classic, one of the greatest finals tennis has ever seen. 2026, first round of Barcelona, wrist injury, out, 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 out. 3 clay seasons, 3 different injuries. 3 times his body breaks down at almost the exact same moment every single year. Now, let's be fair here. The easy story is that Alcaraz is just injury prone. I don't buy that. A guy with a 22-3 record and 7 Grand Slams is not fragile. But there's a real question worth asking. His game is the most physically brutal in the sport. Not one of the toughest, the toughest. The spin he loads on his forehand, the way his wrist absorbs every single hit, the speed, the explosive movement, 5-set matches in blazing summer heat. His body does things most players' bodies never have to do, and eventually the bill comes due. So far, it comes due every April. And then there's the coaching change. Ferrero was there from day one. He didn't just teach tactics, he learned Alcaraz's whole body. He knew the warning signs. He knew when "I'm fine" meant fine, and when it meant trouble was coming. That knowledge took years to build. Samuel Lopez has had 1 season. 1 season to learn which complaints matter and which don't. 1 season to know when the wrist is about to give out. I'm not saying the new coach caused this injury. I'm saying when you manage a body push this hard, knowledge keeps you safe. And some of that safety walked out the door at the end of 2025. There's an idea in money called compound interest, where your returns build on themselves over time. Alcaraz's tennis builds the same way. More titles, more records, more moments nobody else can create. But here's what people forget. Bodies work the same way in reverse. Every year of playing this hard adds more strain to the account. And eventually, every April, that account runs dry. That's not fear talk, that's just the truth. And the truth matters, because what happens next in this sport depends on whether anyone actually listens to it. But right now, this diagnosis has a price tag. Let me show you the real numbers. Sinner beat Alcaraz in Monte Carlo in April, taking back the #1 ranking. At that point, Alcaraz was only 390 points behind. Closable. He was set to defend big points at Rome and Roland-Garros. Then everything fell apart. Then Wimbledon too. Let me explain what that really means. This isn't just a ranking story. A guy doesn't go from completing the career Grand Slam in February to watching Roland-Garros and Wimbledon from home in Murcia just because of numbers. He's watching because his body gave out at the worst possible time, and the entire balance of power in tennis shifts while he's gone. Alcaraz will lose around 3,800 ranking points just from Roland-Garros and Wimbledon alone. Add Madrid, Rome, and Queen's Club on top. Tournaments where he was the defending champ. He defends 0 of them. And while his points disappear, Sinner's points pile up. 6 straight Masters 100 titles while Alcaraz is out. The full career Golden Masters, complete. And Sinner's lead at #1 might be too big to catch before the US Open. When asked about Alcaraz pulling out of Roland-Garros, Sinner said this.
But it's sad for tennis. I mean, Carlos, defending champion, and me being a competitor, you always want to play against the best in the world, and he definitely is the best in the world here on this surface. So
He's right. Every word of that is true. This rivalry is the best thing in men's tennis right now. They push each other further than either could go alone. This sport needs both of them healthy, but the numbers don't lie. Sinner now has a clear road to his own career Grand Slam at Roland-Garros, the one major he's never won. The same court where Alcaraz beat him in 5 sets last year, saving 3 match points he had no business saving. And this year, Alcaraz won't even be there. Here's some perspective. Alcaraz hasn't missed back-to-back Grand Slams since 2020, and that was the pandemic. This time it's just a wrist injury from a first-round match. He hasn't played since mid-April. By the time he might return for the US Open hardcourt swing in late July, he'll have been off tour for over 3 months. 3 months missing from the exact year he was supposed to own. But here's the twist buried under all the injury talk. In 2024, Alcaraz skipped his entire clay season. Monte Carlo, Barcelona, Rome, all gone. Barely any match play. He still won the French Open in 4 sets. In 2025, he played the whole event nursing a hamstring injury and still saved 3 championship points against the same man beating everyone right now. 1 in 5 sets. This guy has some strange gift for playing his best tennis when he shouldn't even be ready. Paris in 2026 is done. That chapter's closed. But the US Open is where Alcaraz won his very first Grand Slam, and his most recent one too, beating Sinner in straight sets last year. Flushing Meadows late August. Hard courts, built for exactly his game. If Sinner wins both Roland-Garros and Wimbledon, which is very possible now, and shows up in New York holding 3 of 4 majors this year, while Alcaraz walks out healthy for the first time since April, that's not just a match, that's a reckoning. Can Lopez learn what Ferrero already knew? Can a new team read this body through a hardcourt summer and get him to New York in one piece? That question doesn't get answered today. It gets answered in August. Or it never does. Either way, this is the biggest story in tennis right now, and we're only halfway through it. That splint is still on his wrist. That's the image stuck in my head. Trophy in his left hand held high, rigid splint on the right hand. That single image said more than any headline could. Every right decision his team made still cost him something huge. The rest, the full immobilization, refusing to force it at Roland-Garros. Every smart, careful choice cost him a title he had already won before. We've watched this man rewrite tennis history over and over, And for the third April in a row, that pen just stopped. If Sinner wins Roland-Garros and Wimbledon while Alcaraz recovers back home in Murcia, and then Alcaraz shows up healthy in Flushing Meadows in August, who are you picking? Drop it in the comments. I want to know. Subscribe, hit the bell, because that possible matchup is the single biggest moment tennis could give us this year. You won't want to hear about it late. The best player of his generation isn't finished. Once that splint finally comes off, the only question left is what's waiting for him on the other side. See you in the next one.